we've had so many iconic chefs from Dan Barber, Daniel Boulud, Mero Calagreco, talking about the role of the chef and how it's evolved and how it continues to evolve. Mero talked about the 80s were all about getting the chef out of the kitchen. The 90s, 2000s is sort of the rise of the celebrity chef. I'm just curious, as someone who's potentially paving the way for a new model for how chefs can build and grow, how do you think about that evolution as we look ahead?
I think we look at it as like the chef as a business person, and really making smart business decisions and not just leaning solely on the art, or solely on j- just the building. It's really like, how can you use your platform not only to maximize profits, but to maximize your reach in interesting ways. I think the future is the chef as the multi hyphen. And I think that's where we're going with this whole thing. And I think that's where a lot of industries are going, of not just doing one thing and making sure that you're not only capitalizing on everything, but you are exploring every opportunity that is presented to you, and being proactive instead of reactive, and not just resting on your laurels.
We can look at businesses inside sort of the culinary hospitality space, but who do you take inspiration from outside? Are there entrepreneurs? Are there categories of business, whether it's tech, whether it's the entertainment industry, that you look to and go, wow, yeah, we can bring this into what we're doing?
I mean, I look at every industry and get inspiration. In terms of tech, there's always been this like moniker of, pay your dues in the kitchen. You talk about these chefs from the 80s and 90s. I'm sure they'll say like, oh, these kids want to come out of culinary school and be chefs. Well, Mark Zuckerberg came out of Harvard and created a multi-billion-dollar industry. Um, you have, I don't know, the creator of Subway was like a college student and his like uncle's friend, that he had a semester off and he wanted to see what he could do with the sandwich shop. And that's the number one fast food restaurant in the world. So I think I look at other industries for inspiration for innovation. I look at the film industry and you see how actors are becoming directors, and directors are now owning their own IP, and, they're pushing that status quo. So why should us as chefs just stay behind the stove? I think we should be looking at this as like, okay, how can I continue to grow within this industry, in ways that may never been imagined? So I look at inspiration all around, in tech and fashion, and in all of the arts, and also some of my colleagues that are doing things that are really, really interesting.
Yeah, I look at you, and there's a couple other people, as like a new blueprint for the modern day chef as a entrepreneur, as a business owner. I think I've talked about on this show a lot about how I feel like there's a reason why musicians are some of the biggest culture creators, the biggest have the biggest effect on culture, because there is no barrier to entry on who can experience their art. The challenge with culinary, the challenge with hospitality is, as much as there's so many people going to Tatiana or your new restaurant, it, in comparison to someone listening to, Not Like Us or a Beyonce song or someone else, it's so small in comparison. And so how do you continue to think about extending the brand while also staying true to who you are, but maybe taking some notes from, again, like a musician? There's a reason why Rihanna can do fashion, music, art, all of the things, because relatively everyone has experienced Umbrella, Ella, around the world.
Oh, I think it's tougher with food, like you said. I mean, the mass reach of a song going number one is different than a restaurant going number one. Like mine, I can only fit 200 people in there a day, as opposed to millions, billions of people can listen at the same exact time. And I think you have to find ways to maximize your reach, by putting yourself out there. And that's something that I did, I would say, more so in my career when I was younger, when I was like building and grinding. It was like, how can I be outside as much as I can, in impactful ways? How can I be around chefs that I've looked up to? So my name is on the same playbill as theirs, at certain
Mm-hmm.
events, to kind of gain that exposure and experience. And I think that's really how you do it. And you have to continue to innovate. With me in my company, even in the infancy, it was like, we're going to do something cool and different every single year. So every year we're dropping something, which is like kind of like an album. I don't care if it's a
Mm-hmm.
cookbook. I don't care if I'm going on a show. I don't care if it's a restaurant, a big event that we're creating, but it has to be a big splash every single year. And I think that's how you stay on the tips of people's tongue, because when people ask that forsaken question, okay, what's next? It's like, all right, I got something for you.
You're
Um,
like, haven't I done enough? Haven't I done
yeah,
enough for
exactly. Can
you?
I get some sleep? But everybody wants to ask that question,
Yeah,
and
of course.
I think if you are forward thinking and that, once again, being proactive instead of reactive, like, okay, we're done. Now what? It's like, okay, while I'm working on this, I'm already working on the next thing and the
Mm,
next thing and the next thing, and not once again resting on your laurels. It's continuing to push forward, and hopefully you're doing it in a culturally significant way
mm,
that touches the zeitgeist, and it's not just, oh, it's a for-profit thing, or you're just trying to stay busy. It's like, no, I'm doing something cool. I'm doing something dope. I'm doing something interesting. And I think that's how you continue to get the reach. Because unless you're on the number one cooking show day in and day out, you're
yeah.
not reaching so many people. Like, you
Hmm.
can only feed a finite, amount of people a day. But how do you reach beyond the walls of the restaurant?
Hmm.
And I think that's where you're able to touch a lot of people.
Yeah. Well, but like you said, you want to make sure you get some sleep. It sounds like there's a tremendous amount of output, because
Hmm.
it's like the world is moving so fast, but in order to build a sustainable business, in order to really build a culture around your business, there has to be a tremendous amount of input though as well. It can't just all be output. It's got to be like, not only do I have to take care of myself, I got to take care of my team now. So, there's that delicate balance. I feel like in a lot of
Yeah,
ways.
it's a it's it's a balance, but every successful person will tell you there's not much balance. You're just going and trying and seeing what sticks. But the thing that you have to be very, very cognizant of is the team that you put around you, and
Mm,
investing back into your team.
mm,
I would say that would be key and paramount over profits, is making sure that you have a solid team around you. And that's the only way you're going to grow. That's the only way you're going to be able to do two restaurants a year and
mm.
festivals and books and TV and events and podcasts. Like, you got to have
Yeah.
a really, really good team around you. And I think that is the most important thing.
Like, where do you go to learn about leadership? Is this something that was sort of foundational with your mom and your dad, or is this something
Hmm.
that, like, as you've grown, you've learned from a few people, or you just study on your own?
I would say it's a combination of all three. My mom's a chef, so I learned, some leadership from her. I learned throughout my career, like coming up, working in kitchens, some things what not to do, some things that I want to do. And then a lot of it is on the job training from me, myself, and I. Lots of trial and error, lots of trying to figure out how to connect with people and get the most out of people, and to work with people, because nobody has the mind that I have, in terms of like, no one's going to care about my business as much as I care about it.
Hmm.
And once you come to those terms, frustrations kind of subside. And it's like, how can you push and mentor people without expecting them to be you? and also understand that they're sacrificing a lot for you. So I think it's a combination of all three, and it's
Hmm.
still a learning progress. I'm still learning how to be the best leader, and I'll never be the best leader. I don't think that ever exists. I
Hmm.
think only dictators think they're the best leader. You
Yeah,
know,
we know how that ends up usually.
yeah, that's when you cross over and you're always right and all these things. But right now I'm trying to surround myself with people that are smarter than me and also learn from them.
Man, isn't that the truth? I think was it Oprah Winfrey who said that? It's like that's the biggest thing. I
Yeah.
always say I surround myself with people who are smarter, more interesting,
Hmm.
more dynamic in every way because it
Yeah.
does it rubs off on you
Yeah.
tremendously. On you, I've heard you talk about on the road to success, and you're talking about sacrifice right now. Um, Sacrifice for the craft, and it's
Hmm.
not what you do just inside the kitchen. It's the decisions you make outside of the kitchen, and again, what you do and don't do. Like
Hmm.
what, as you look at like the last decade, what have you had to sacrifice in order to kind of get to where you're at?
I would say family time,
Mm,
relationships, being there, being emotionally available. Yeah, that would be the main thing is like relationships and family, just all of that is you really have to pick and choose what you're able to be a part of. And sometimes that's really tough. But when you're the boss and you're the one whose name is on the door, you have to make those sacrifices and also personal time, just personal time,
just time with yourself,
just time with
like
time with myself. Like when I don't think I've ever had, besides COVID, like 2 consecutive days just to myself
yeah.
alone, doing nothing, ordering takeout, and that's a huge sacrifice to your mental health. So yeah, lots of sacrifices, but I also don't view them as sacrifices. I view them as deposits in the bank to success.
Mm, mm.
It's like that's just what it takes. Like early mornings, late nights.
I want to just get back to what I was talking about in regards to like a blueprint for the modern day chef, because not that we could sit here and name dozens of so many incredibly successful chefs who are opening up 25, 30 restaurants around the world and all these other things. But I feel like there's like not a ceiling, but there's a model in which there's been, you're partnering with hotels and you might be doing some products, some consumer facing products. You've got book deals. There's this model of kind of how the ecosystem grows. And that's kind of what I'm like, you and a couple other young chefs may have the potential to break this model. You may have the potential to create something new as we look at things like not just doing television, but like creating your own, being the writer, being the director, being the producer, being the actor. Um, are those things that are there those things that you want to do and want to accomplish?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I do want to accomplish those things. I haven't really delved into television yet at all.
Mm,
Like I've done it. I'm on TV. But I haven't dived in because of what you said. Like I don't want to do something that is so cookie cutter. Like I don't have an interest. I know I would get bored. I
hmm.
just know by episode 29 and I'm judging just this food and I'm just tasting like I'm really like what the fuck like I gotta
Yeah.
I gotta figure some shit out with my time here on this earth. So I really want it to be something impactful and I do want to like own it. Like I want to own the concept and own the creative. So yeah, that's something I'm really really interested in, and I've had a lot of talks with networks, and it just hasn't been the right thing.
Yeah.
And for me, I'm just trusting the process because I know when it comes, it's just going to be so fly and it's so cool, and that's what I want. I want a show that I would want to watch, and a
Mm,
lot of stuff that I have been invited to do. I'm not like tuning in to watch that. You know, I think it's
You're not
more
the consumer as well.
not the
You want to be the consumer also.
yeah, I want to be the consumer. You know, kind of like restaurants. The restaurants that I open, like I would eat there.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? So like the books that I write, I would read them.
Mm.
It should be no different in that art form for me.
Is there an artist, again, it doesn't have to be a chef, but it could be a musician, it could be an artist, it could be a filmmaker that you would love to collaborate with?
Yeah, honestly, Ryan Coogler would be really,
Yeah.
really cool. Um, Kenya Barris would be dope. I think
I don't know Kenya Barris. Who's Ken?
Kenya Barris, he did Blackish.
Okay, yeah, for
And
sure.
a
Okay,
couple
I
other
do know.
yeah, you know him.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've developed a small relationship of like Lawrence Fishburne, and I
Okay,
think he would be like
nice.
a wealth of knowledge
Oh yeah, for
in
sure.
that, you
Yeah.
know, because he's only done impactful things since the beginning of his career. I don't know why that just struck me, but um yeah, I mean, I think all the people, you know, I guess Kenya did a sitcom, but even like if you like peel back the layers of what he's done, it's definitely like prestige-esque of like really, really thoughtful stuff. And I kind of want to do the same in the TV food space, like something that's thoughtful, something that's funny, something that has like historical context to it. Um, you know, a mix between like Bill Nye the Science Guy and 106 in Park or some shit like that. I don't know.
Wow, that love child would be amazing.
That would be hilarious. But that's me, you know, like I was watching that and watching 106 in Park at the same time, you
Yeah.
know. And I yeah, I think that would be cool. That would be cool.
I've heard you talk about in the obviously with the restaurants, but like I think it layers into all the projects that you do. You know, you want to continue to push the narrative that we belong
Hmm.
and we should be respected. Like as we're talking about and we're sort of dreaming here about the future and how these projects potentially come to life. I have to imagine that's like in the DNA of kind of every creative project that you touch.
It's literally in my DNA. So I can't
Yeah,
escape it, you know?
yeah,
And I think that's why I try to push it so much. And yes, it's a mission, but also why wouldn't I? It's my
mm,
culture, you
hmm,
know, so why wouldn't I talk about it at every turn? And why wouldn't I try to inject that in everything that I do? That's how these things become normalized. When you see them everywhere, when it's like, oh, a number one restaurant in New York City is also Afro Caribbean, then that makes it like very normal for other Afro Caribbean restaurants to open up.
hmm,
Um, or there's a book talking about it's my America, but this is what my America looks like. You
hmm,
know,
hmm.
we ate oxtails and also we ate gumbo and we ate these things. So I think it's just the more you talk about it, the more you normalize it. And it's not in a woe is me way. It's just this is what I eat. This is what I listen to. This is what I watch.
Yeah. You're like, this is my reality.
This is just my reality. This is in my
Yeah,
DNA. And you know, the more recognition it gets isn't just
hmm.
you know, another notch in my belt. It's like it just makes it more normalized in our culture. So hopefully more people are gravitating towards it.
There's been a lot of focus over the years about this trip to Nigeria when you were a kid, and you know your mom kind of famously saying you're not coming home until you learn respect.
Hmm.
I'm curious, like, have you returned since that trip? And would you ever think about in the future developing a project on continent in Africa? And kind of what would that be?
Yes, I have been back a couple times since. I've actually went there. I actually went there and did a dinner and cooked in Lagos, which was really, really cool. And would I open a concept there? I don't know. You know, I don't live there. So like it's hard to say that I would open up a concept there. I would have to know the lay of the land, and everything. But it's not a no. It's just that I don't know. Um, but I do have like I do want to make an impact on the continent
Mm,
in a
mm,
way. So like I have a water company coming out soon called Miri. It's sparkling water, canned sparkling water flavored. And Miri means water in Igbo,
mm,
my tribe's language.
mhm.
And each can goes back to giving access to fresh water in West Africa and all of the continents. So, I think that there's ways to make an impact instead of just opening a restaurant for, you know, I don't know, purely financial gain. I think that
Mhm.
there's other ways to impact it that could be more helpful than that.
Yeah. No, I love that. I've heard you talk about the water. Yeah, I was more saying like it could be a hotel, it could be a mixed use development, it could be some other form of a project. We've talked with a number of chefs on this show, and other people about how the music, West African music, South African music, is permeating culture. The fashion is permeating
Mm-hmm.
culture. The food is permeating culture, and it's creating more, finally, more of an interest from people wanting to travel, wanting to experience, and be on continent. And so, yeah, not necessarily a restaurant, but getting back to your roots and maybe doing some sort of a project. I mean, you're doing it. The impact
Yeah,
is
I don't
going to
know.
be doing it,
That
but
that's that seems like a long flight to me, and I'm already like traveling a lot. That's all
it's
that
it,
sounds
it,
like,
it
you
it's a
know.
long flight. It's a long
Yeah, I'm like
flight.
Kwame, we need you here, and I have to fly twice a month to Nigeria. Um,
You're already tired, right
yeah, I
now.
just America's whooping my ass, so I think that would be a long flight, honestly. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's never enough.
I'm just,
We'll see.
bro. I'm just thinking big. I'm just thinking so big for you.
Yeah,
You're
I
like,
know.
relax a little bit.
Yeah, America's pretty big. So we're gonna start over here and see what happens. So
In your TEDx that you did, I think it was titled "A Lot Can Happen in 10 Years."
hmm
When you think about what you've accomplished, and you sit it sounds like you don't have a lot of time, but when you have the free time to sit and dream about what you want to continue to build and how you want to continue to build on this foundation, because you're young.
hmm
How does this story of a young
hmm
black chef continue to play out?
Oh man, it's funny. Like I've sat down with my team, but I have like a bigger sit down with my team to really discuss this. It's like, how do we transcend our lifetime here? That's something that we have to think about. And it's like, yeah, I can continue opening this by Kwame Onwuachi, this by Kwame Onwuachi, but how does that transcend? And we haven't seen it, I guess, in our lifetime, besides the McDonald's and the Subways, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? But like, how do we keep that going? And how do we not burst this bubble of
Mm,
bandwidth? How do
yeah.
we have the foresight? Because I'm at restaurant two now. I'm opening two more in the next year, and then two more after that. It's like, okay, well, we can't clone me. So like, how am I going to be at all these places at once? We've seen the we've seen the story play out so many times where
Yeah.
like chefs, then they have 10 restaurants, and then they're like, oh, the food isn't really great at these restaurants, like what do we do? Like, how do we prevent that from happening and not get lost in the sauce? So I think it's a combination of things. It's creating a brand that doesn't have the name essentially attached to it,
Mm,
but it has the injection of excellence in it at the beginning. It's creating products that once again transcend. So Miri, things like that.
mhm,
And making sure all these things have philanthropic goals attached to them at the beginning
mm,
so that they're impacting people with or without us around. And I
mhm,
think once you take the self out of it and the ego out of it, then it begins to become more clear. But we're still figuring that out. Like, what is the thing that we're like working towards
mhm.
that isn't just, oh, we have 20 restaurants in the restaurant group, and it's like, no, we have products in
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
1,000 Costco's, and we're
Yeah, well, it's
providing.
diversification,
Yeah.
of the portfolio of the ecosystem, because the restaurants just take so much of you.
Hmm.
And again, like you said, it's all about team. But listen, I've been saying, I worked in the hotel business for a while, and I always say, like, raising capital is easy in comparison to finding the right human capital. That
Hmm.
is challenging.
Hmm.
Like finding the
Yeah.
right team, the right people who believe in your vision, and then execute at a certain level.
Yeah, the execution. Raising capital is easy, but the execution is it's so paramount,
Yeah.
and yeah, and it's funny. I've actually never raised capital. I've never had to. Like, it's
Hmm.
always been like, we have the money, let's do this project. We have the money, let's do this project. And it's because for me, it's like, one, it's like that added pressure, um, that having to pay that thing back. You're kind of like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
held to that for X amount of years. Um, so it's better to just do a partnership with someone that makes sense, and
Hmm.
it's more of an amenity and not like it's a financial stronghold on the property. Um, but yeah, that execution is so key, because when you have to pay people back, they're going to be
It's a
checking
different
that
level
P
of
and L.
pressure, man. It's a
Yeah,
different level of pressure. You're like, I already
yeah.
got the pressure right
Hmm.
now.
Yeah, and you have to
It,
you have to not only execute publicly, but you have to execute financially, and those are two very separate
100%.
things. Because you can be a very popular restaurant, but that bottom line is is the bottom line.
It's so true. I
It's,
remember when we had Simon Kim on, and he was like talking about Peora, and it had a Michelin star, and every celebrity was there.
uh-huh.
And he's like, if you looked at the books though, he's like, that's why we had to close.
They were losing
Like,
money.
it wasn't a financial success at
Hmm.
all.
And that's important. That's so important. People ask me about my first restaurant that closed, and they're like, "So what happened?" I was like, "We the finances. I mean, that's we can get lost in everything else, but like
Yeah, yeah,
the restaurant wasn't well capitalized,
yeah.
and that's why businesses close. I have to teach you fucking business 101. Like, this not a secret.
The math wasn't mathing, as they
Exactly.
say.
Exactly. Exactly.
I was like asking this though, like, in addition to what I was talking about in 10 years, like, but if you knew you couldn't fail though, what would that path look like?
I don't know.
Is
I'm,
there a
I'm
certain
already doing it.
product? Is there,
Yeah, no, I'm doing it. So I don't care about failure. There's nothing I'm like, oh, I wish I wasn't so scared, and then I would audition on Broadway. Like, I don't have that.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Fortunately, it's like I'm doing the things that I want to do.
What a fortunate position to,
Yeah,
to be in.
yeah.
You mentioned Miami, you mentioned Vegas. Okay, what's on the horizon here? You got two restaurants. Obviously, you've got your sights set on new markets. What are the concepts? How are they different than the two concepts you have now?
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, they're still developing,
mhm.
but the one in Vegas is going to be a big restaurant, in the Sahara. Really, really, really excited about it. Going to Vegas has always been a dream. I didn't know it would happen so soon, but I'm very fortunate to have gotten the opportunity to partner with this casino that's, transforming, their whole operations.
Yeah.
And then in Miami, I'm friends with the guys over at Last Lap, and Last Lap's a bar in New York. For those that don't know,
Hmm.
it's a Caribbean bar, and I just felt that there was a synergy there with my food, with their atmosphere. They were also looking to elevate their experience, and they were going to South Beach, and I think I mean, it's just a no brainer,
Yeah.
opening down there with that type of food and that type of environment. So that's going to be obviously leaning on Caribbean fare and Caribbean cocktails and a vibrant space in South Beach.
Hmm.
So yeah, two projects in 6 months.
Whew.
Yeah, let's fucking go.
Let's go. You're like, let's go.
Let's go.
Um, and what are there any partnerships? Is there any, obviously, anyone who hasn't watched the Netflix Chef's Table. They need to absolutely need to go watch that, your episode and all the other episodes. But any other kind of partnerships or collaborations that are coming up that are exciting you?
Well, I just opened a concept in City Field where the Mets play. It's called Patty Palace. So
Hmm.
it's like my
Oh,
fast
yeah, I saw
casual
that.
concept. Yeah. So it's like curry chicken patties on a cocoa bread bun with like ginger cabbage slaw and jerk
Oh,
barbecue
yeah, that
sauce,
looks so
green
good.
aioli. It's fire, bro. It's so good. So we opened two spots in City Field. We're talking with a bunch of other sports stadiums in New York. We're opening up a food truck in Lincoln Center for Patty Palace. So we're
Wow.
really trying to expand that to hopefully that we're doing retail around the country. Um,
So
we're
so
making a
this
lot of
this is how
patties
you
right
become
now.
Ronald McDonald. This is the Ronald
Yes,
McDonald concept.
Ronald McDonald with red dreadlocks.
There you go. Yeah, yeah, we're here for it.
Yeah, but is Ronald McDonald black? He has an afro. Like he has a red
I'm not.
afro.
I'm not sure. Yeah, he's like ethnically ambiguous or something like
Exactly.
that. He could be.
Maybe he's just albino. Maybe I don't know.
No, that's amazing. I need to experience that next time. Next time I'm in town. Um, what else is exciting you right now?
Um,
As an entrepreneur, as a chef, as a lover of culture.
I mean, I'm really just focused, man, on these restaurants, getting this restaurant group like really, really tidy. Um, and then focusing on, direct to consumer with the water and the patties. I would say those things excite me so much right now, especially the direct to consumer things, because it's just so different. We were just up in Minnesota at the water plant and
Mm,
doing our first run of Miri, and that was like really really exciting to see it all come to life. So yeah, those are the things that excite me. Just like knocking
yeah.
out these projects, crossing these things off the list, doing the next ones. Oh, I'm doing the Met Gala in a couple days, so that's pretty exciting.
I was gonna bring that up, but yeah, yeah. So what has that experience been like for you?
It's been pretty chill to be honest. I know it's a big event, but we're treating it like an event. So,
Mm,
we
mm.
had to do a bunch of tastings with Anna. And, obviously she's very particular because she's a genius. And
Yeah.
so it's been just a process of that, of just doing a bunch of tastings and honing in on what exactly she wants. But it's been a great experience. Like it hasn't really been too stressful. Um, I'm getting my outfit in like a couple days, so
Yeah, yeah,
excited
man. What's this
to
outfit
see
like? Is
how
there
it
a
look.
specific designer?
I have no idea what it looks like. Yeah, designer Ugo Mosier. He's
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah,
he's
yeah, yeah.
a really big
That's
stylist.
the second time Ugo Mosier has been brought up on this show, from
Yeah.
another chef who's worked with him. That's
What
funny.
chef? What chef?
Chef Eros, Tolu
Okay.
Eros. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Worked with him on a project.
Yeah. So he's doing my look. I wanted to go with a black designer
Yeah,
because of the theme. I have no idea what it looks like. He's coming to New York on the 28th, and I'll see
nice.
it then. But I trust him. I've known him for a long time, so I trust him.
I'm sure it's going to be dope. What's the menu for the Met Gala?
I can't
Let-
talk about the menu,
Okay,
unfortunately, until the gala
this is a safe
happens.
space.
They're really strict on that. But I'm embodying all different levels of Black culture, or all different spectrums of Black culture. It's probably a better term, because it's not a monolith, and there's so many
Yeah, yeah.
different tentacles that came out of the continent.
Hmm. Absolutely, absolutely, and continuing to do so.
Uh-huh.
Um, what's a life lesson that you can leave us with?
A life lesson, I would say, coming back to your question to me about what would I do if I didn't have the fear of failure, is to try your best to eliminate the fear of failure, because we only have one life to live, and we are so lucky to be here. We're so lucky to be here. So try to eliminate that fear of failure and try to just take on every project with the same excitement as the last. because you just never know what's going to happen. And that means if it's for you, you know, like don't,
Mm, mm.
I'm gonna try out for the NBA. Like I'm just saying, like that's, you know, be within reason. Um, but try to eliminate the fear of failure. And I think life is just so much smoother and enjoyable.
Yeah, there's so much. I think we limit ourselves so much. You know,
Hmm.
is kind of what I get from that as well. And it's yeah, there's so much bounty in this life, and there's so much that we can do and accomplish. And you
Hmm.
know, oftentimes we're our biggest barrier
Yeah,
to to a lot of things. So, man, I love that. Thank you for being a part of our community.
of
I'm
course,
excited
man.
for you. I'm excited to see how this develops, how your career develops, how you continue to affect culture, uh, and just bring just delicious food, you know,
That's
to the
important.
masses.
Can't forget that. Can't forget
Yeah,
that.
and start hydrating us here pretty soon. It sounds like
Yes,
with the
absolutely.
water.